Hello, all you lowly humans out there. It is I, the Totem Makayev, Master of Minds and Men, and this is episode 70 of Anti-Life Reviews. It is also the third week of 5 in this month where we are looking at the Annihilation storyline from Marvel Comics. The first 2 weeks were a lot of setup, getting Thanos and Drax into position that made sense from a narrative point. This week we're getting into the meat of it, as it were, when we look at the Annihilation Prologue, which came out in March 2006, as well as both Nova and Silver Surfer miniseries, which ran both from April 2006 to July 2006. Let's go ahead and get into it. But before we begin, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. My goal is to hit over 400 subs by the end of the month. And you know what? Only you can make that happen, just like preventing a forest fire. So make it happen. It'll be the one worthwhile thing you do all month. Let's go over the writers and artists on these. The writers on the prologue and the Silver Surfer is Mr. Keith Giffen, name we've seen before. I'm not going to go over too much about Mr. Giffen again. So I'm going to be talking about him every week mostly. He's a steady hand in the comics game, known for his incredible level of consistency in writing, as well as fairly good comedic timing. I always recommend Justice League International as a good example of his writing at the highest level. For Nova, it's Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. I lump these two together because, well, they have worked together most of their careers and continue to this day. They would continue the Marvel cosmic stuff after Annihilation, with them writing the Guardians of the Galaxy series, Marvel based the MCU version on. Their Nova ongoing stuff like War and Realms of the Kings, sort of fleshing things out in the coming years. They have a wide variety of writing they've done over the years, though, beyond Marvel cosmic stuff. For the artists on the prologue is Scott Collins, a solid and overall interesting artist who has worked on Spider-Man, The Avengers, Wolverine, Fantastic Four, Green Lantern, The Flash, and a lot more. I like his art quite a bit, and there is no surprise he worked under John Romita Sr. For Nova, Kev Walker, a great artist that really cut his teeth in 2000 AD for a lot of years, and has worked on things like the Thunderbolts, various Avengers series, Dark, Secret, Arena, Undercover, and New. It was the only good part of the abysmal Marvel Max title, The Eternal, and a dark version of The Eternals that was just bad. On the Silver Surfer, Renato Arlum, fine if not slightly, I guess generic is the word. He's what I would consider to be, or what used to be, a kind of standard comic artist. He's leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of the art I'm seeing in the past few years, though. But his runs on the Age of Apocalypse series, not the crossover, but the ongoing that came out years later, was pretty good. We start with the Annihilation Prologue. Let's start with the best. Thanos. Thanos, you all know who that is, I guess. Be prepared because I'm going to be throwing a lot of people at you in this setup. Thanos and his fairy friend Screet, who has clothes now, are joined by Death, who is still a little girl. She informs him something wonderful is about to happen. The Klin, a prison facility and power station on the Crunch, which separates universes, is destroyed when something comes through. A mass of strange alien bug ships totally decimating the Klin in one go. Move to planet Xandar, home of the Nova Corp, which is, if you don't know, sort of Marvel's answer to the Green Lantern Corps. They are space cops held together by a hive mind, a world mind it's called, with Earth Nova member Richard Rider amongst them. Drax and Cammy are there as well. They are headed to the Klin, but you know, Drax is let free despite the 200,000 counts of murder due to his genetic profile changing from his miniseries when he hatched out of his old body. So they don't even know if it is Drax. Drax and Cammy steal a ship to leave the planet despite its lockdown. The Nova Corps gather and are briefed as to what happened in the Klin and the destruction and the fact that over 200 systems are now without power. But before they get a chance, Xandar is attacked by the same monstrosities that attacked the Klin, and in minutes the Nova Corps and Xandar are decimated, with only Richard Rider left alive, by chance. He sits amongst the ruins of Xandar, leaving a message for the world mime that he was there at the last days of the Nova Corps, and God help him, he's still here. We briefly see Ronan the Accuser, the Super Skrull, and the Silver Surfer all doing their things on a page or so. Before we meet the big bad of all of this, the aptly named Annihilus, old Fantastic Four villain and ruler of the Negative Zone, who isn't happy that the humans have infiltrated the Negative Zone and plan to destroy the entire universe, with the cosmic control rod to back him up. To end the issue was a great issue. The way the conflict is introduced has such an epic scale. Literally, it wipes out a known place, it wipes out a known force. We see all the players now, Richard Rider, Thanos, Drax, Ronan, Silver Surfer, Super Skrull, all in place to deal with this almost insurmountable force, and the usage of Annihilus is perfect. This solidified him as a top, universal level threat when before he was just a guy Richards beat up pretty regular. Whole thing had a great scope to it, and everyone's character made a lot of sense. Stuff with the Nova Corps and Richard was genuinely heartbreaking, and we saw the police and people in the Clint from Keith's Thanos run die too, which was kind of sad because they were funny. Let's move on to Nova Issue 1. Now, these mini-series, I'm going to be burning through these pretty quickly as they are all kind of lead-ups to the main series to introduce how all of these characters have changed and grown and are who they need to be going into Annihilation in the 6-issue mini. Now we get a quick recap of all the stuff we saw in the prologue. Then we see poor Richard Rider again, all beat to shit and back, but he has a voice in his head. It's the Xandarian world mind that governs and maintains Xandar. Sort of useless now, with which the world mind agrees. So it demands Richard come see it, and after a small fight with some bugs that he loses, he meets the world mind and downloads all of it into his head, including all of the power of the Nova Force. Now Richard is the Nova Corps with a massive power upgrade, a new suit, and a new head companion. He instantly flies off to wreck some of Annihilus' ships that he left behind before crash landing back on Xandar after overextending himself, where he finds Drax and Cammy. Like I said, lots of setup, but good. The art was great, and it made sense to get Nova down to being the Nova we need him to be. Yeah, good start. Nova Issue 2, the cover promises hot Drax on Nova action, but that is not to be. Drax, Nova, and Cammy need to get off planet. Thanks to the world mind, they know where a not totally destroyed Nova ship is. We get some good action with the two fighting bugs. A funny scene where Drax puts on Nova's helmet because he's pretty fed up with being bossed around by the world mind. Nova is, and Drax and it talk. We only see Drax part of it, but the conversation had me chuckle. He's like, yeah, he gave me his helmet. This is Drax. Drax agrees to help Nova understand and control his powers, and they steal a ship, use the Nova Corps to jump into hyperdrive and end up in some time away. They almost crash land on a planet before being saved by Quasar. Good old Wendell Vaughn himself. Solid action, solid humor. Drax is a compelling character. Cammy is annoying. And Richard is only okay. He's a bit bitchy and some of what he does doesn't make sense. He says he has survivor's guilt, but dude, you need to tap into that fight or flight thing and get to work. Also good to see Quasar. He's someone I forget about a lot in the history of Marvel cosmic stuff, and I shouldn't. Nova Issue 3, they arrive on a planet thanks to Quasar, who is happy to see them as he is trying to get the people of this planet away from the oncoming destruction, but no one seems to have any real idea what is the destruction, including the 3 that survived it, just that it's nigh unstoppable. Nova begins trying to build a Stargate, no relation to the show or movie. He doesn't want to get sued, call it a Fargate, maybe, using his newfangled powers, just as the first wave of the Annihilation wave attacks. Quasar is able to hold them off while Nova opens a gate, but Annihilus himself shows up with the main fleet and wrecks everyone. The art was really dodgy in the faces here, like the long shots, the scenes, the space shots, and spaceships were all really, really good, but the people looked like Aeon Flux characters from Liquid Television. It just didn't work and was jarring compared to the last issues. But the art on Annihilus was awesome. He looks so cool here. I used it in my opening title thing. It's the best design I've ever seen of Annihilus, and I wish they would have kept this up. The conversation with someone, when someone meets Drax, is kind of funny, like someone who knew him, because he's well known in the space community, so everyone was like, hey, weren't you taller? Reminded me of Snake Plissken in Escape from New York. Well, I thought you'd be taller. He also mentioned how he used to have a cape. It was a fine issue. It just sets up the ending. Beyond that, cool to see Quasar. Last issue of Nova. Nova and Quasar attempt to keep up with the Annihilation wave as some people do manage to escape. We get some absolutely awesome fight scenes with the two against the ships before they decide to go toe-to-toe with the big man himself, Annihilus. They attack, but Annihilus is much more powerful than they can comprehend thanks to the cosmic control rod. He kills Quasar in a shocking move and steals the quantum bands. Those are Quasar's source of power. Nova attacks, but he cannot keep with the power of Annihilus, who can steal energy thanks to the cosmic control rod. So Richard flees, but not before using most of his power to disrupt Annihilus' hold on part of the wave and gives them orders to destroy themselves, being a bug hive mind and everything. Richard is picked up by Drax and Cammy in a ship and decides it's time to get serious under Drax's tutelage, which will go nowhere, actually. Solid miniseries, like I mentioned, really here to get Richard to be the warrior he needs to be. I don't know about the Drax teaching him thing, as that really doesn't go anywhere. I don't think they ever mention it again. It's sort of silly, but whatever. It leads that group into Annihilation, and we get the big event of Quasar being killed, which makes Annihilus look great. So overall, was eventful enough. Silver Surfer issue 1. The Surfer travels through the rubbles of Xandar. He finds guys working for Annihilus. They're looking for all the old heralds of Galactus. Airwalker, Firelord, Silver Surfer, etc. Surfer beats them up and declares he's proper mad at Annihilus. Alright. Elsewhere, Thanos, the Forgotten One, and Skreet are mulling about near the Skrull Empire. He tells the Forgotten One to contact Annihilus on Thanos' behalf. It was alright. The art was not great. Everyone was really skinny and weird. The aliens looked okay. Some cool flashback sequences and some emo boy moments you would expect, or dare I say need, from a Silver Surfer comic. He reflects back on the death he caused as a Herald of Galactus and relates to the devastation that Annihilus is causing now and won't let it stand. Good writing, average story. Good to see Thanos doing stuff. Silver Surfer issue 2. So we have 3 stories here. The Surfer, Annihilus' guys trying to get various Heralds of Galactus, and a Mr. Thanos. The Surfer story deals with some of Annihilus' men, but is held by Redshift and Firelord, other heralds. They join together. Annihilus' men capture Terrax the Tamer, another former herald, and Thanos goes to visit Annihilus, and they find some common ground to which they can understand each other. We find Annihilus' reasoning for war, which I actually already explained. This reality has imposed upon the negative zone, and anything in the negative zone is his. Thus, this side of the door is also his and must be destroyed. So Thanos and Annihilus are now besties. Annihilus' throne room in this is just the Emperor's from Return of the Jedi, down to the chair, the window, the glowing computer banks. It's really off-putting and strange. Like, they didn't even pretend like it's not. Fine, the Thanos stuff was interesting. Everything else was Silver Surfer trying to put his heist crew together that will eventually not really go anywhere. Silver Surfer issue 3, we meet 2 new characters who were released when the Klin was destroyed. Tenebris and Aegis. They were seemingly locked away by Galactus. They capture the Fallen One, and now he works for them. This guy goes through jobs like you wouldn't believe. Surfer and the former Heralds all get together to try to figure out what to do. Heralds go to war, but Silver Surfer goes off to get Galactus, offering himself up in service of the World Eater if he helps their cause, and deals with the new dicks that came out of the Klin. And thus, Silver Surfer once again becomes the Herald of Galactus. Meanwhile, Thanos and Annihilus come to an agreement. Thanos will show Annihilus how to harvest the power cosmic. The reason they are hunting the Heralds down is they are endued with the power cosmic. But what Thanos asks for in return is unknown. Yeah, this is getting a little long on the tooth. Frankly, 4 issues to tell this story seems a bit of a stretch. It's pretty obvious where things are headed, but they can't even tell that story yet. Last issue of the week. Last issue of Silver Surfer as well. Issue 4. The Surfer, now with his newfound powers, wrecks a bunch of Annihilus' men, the ones hunting the former Heralds. Surfer then settles into his new role, one where there is purpose and meaning in the destruction, where he is a Herald of Galactus again against the forces of Annihilus. Elsewhere, Thanos arrives to talk to Tenebris and Aegis, where he makes a deal with them. What that deal entails, well, we aren't really sure. Well, it wrapped up everything, and we found out Skreet is a Chaos Mite. So, okay. My overview, both of these were fine, nothing bad really, some dodgy art, but mostly fine. They served as a precursor, getting the characters to make sense, to be where they needed to be, and that's simply it. We get the changes we needed to get, the power-ups, the relationships, it's all fine. Just a big, long-winded 4 issues. It was a little too much. I feel like 2 for each of these, or 1 big issue for each. The Nova and Silver Surfer ones could have done wonders, just one-off issues. Now, on the flip side, the prologue was awesome. All action, all plot. It moved everything forward without any decompression. It was the best issue by a long shot this week. That's not at all downplaying the other ones. They were, Nova was pretty good, and Nova getting his groove back was cool, and Thanos being Arch were good, but they weren't really 4 issues that we needed. So overall, solid, good enough, leads us into our next minis, which let's hope are a tiny bit more eventful. If they're as eventful as this, I'll be happy. Still, thus far, not one thing has been bad, just a little spread out. I think, and I want to say this, all 4 of the minis, Nova, Surfer, Super Skrull, and Ronin, came out at the exact same time. They came out at each one issue came out the same month, 2 issues came out the same month. So it was a kind of breeze to go through them because you didn't have to wait like 16 months for all of them. They came out in the same 4-month span, so you could just read them back to back to back to back to back. And that kind of gives you a sense of perspective on all of this as you weren't waiting for each of these individual issues to come out month after month. Well, that was week 3 of Annihilation Month. Did you like my review? Do you like Annihilus as the big bad in his reasoning? What do you think of Thanos and what he's up to? Are you excited to see Nova and Silver Surfer kick some ass in the upcoming series? Let me know down below. Also, please get to my Patreon. Tell me what you want me to review. Hit up my Instagram. That's Demon Peaks for daily Twin Peaks memes. Yes, the television show. Check out my podcast, the Dark Peaks Podcast. Hear me talk about smoking crack. Next week, more Annihilation as we look at the Super Skrull and Ronin miniseries. That's Ronin the Accuser. This has been the Tony Micaiah, Master of Minds and of Men. Thank you very much, and goodbye.